Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. EDDIE-FICATION with consulting human resource development training solution. Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
Self-isolation is not a prison sentence, but it's the safest way to protect the people around you from possibly getting sick. Continue to comfortably buy your groceries and whatever you need, even when in quarantine. Use Coop Bank's e-banking to transfer funds to a close friend or family member's account and get them to do your shopping for you. Log on to www.grenadacoopbank.com and sign up for Coop Bank's e-banking.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Co-op Bank introduces e-payments, our new e-banking feature that allows you to send money to friends or family. E-payments, the swift, simple, and secure way of transferring money.
Welcome home. Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
And Tillian Group, underwriters of insurance fleet protection, investment,
Of the wonderful opportunity to win a grocery coupon to the tune of EC $250, redeemable at any of the food fairs. All you've got to do to qualify is like, share, comment, and follow EDDIE-FICATION on any of our social media platforms. This promotion continues for all of June with one draw on Thursday, June 30th. The winner will be announced immediately after advising the said winner. Any overseas winner is asked to kindly transfer their winning to a relative or friend who lives in the state of Grenada. I am extending an open invitation to any individual or company tuned in to come on board and assist with our drive to whip up an interest in getting more of our young people to pull up their chair and pay attention to the instructive thoughts and ideas shared on this program as we seek to edify them to make better decisions that would help to shape a better future for themselves and the future security of the nation as a whole. Join me in bringing excitement to our audience with a chance to win something that bright their corner in these challenging times. Reach out and touch someone as regularly as you can afford. Of course, due recognition will be given to you for your active partnership in this regard. Thanks in advance.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick.
Lovely folks. Welcome to, of course, my 78th independent live session and my 24th for 2022. As we continue to consistently send positive vibes into the universe in preparation for all the positive that we crave in spite of our many challenges. And of course, we know those challenges are many, but they too shall pass. As I've told you all too often, change has landed and is waiting for 6 clear days to the 23rd of June to situate itself properly, to be properly ensconced among us. We, the people, have to get ready to be a part of the movement going forward, to throw in our lot to help salvage, stabilize, and build Grenada once and for all. Once we secure that change, we have to want it to last. We have got first to be the change, that we want to see as a people. A short reminder here, you are now able to tune into, of course, Facebook Live and YouTube Live, where you can follow, comment, like, share, and even subscribe. Spread the word, folks. Spread the word. Share, 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 so that as many people as possible on this lovely Corpus Christi Day can join us and become edified. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in once more. Welcome to the newcomers to Edification, or 119th edition, powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank and Tillian Group Country Cold Store. All local giants in their own right, each of which started with humility, and today they're enjoying great measure of exaltation by God's grace. Our topic today, take responsibility for our future by changing our attitude as a people. For the same attitude and behavior that we developed and exuded over the last 27 years, which got us in plenty trouble, deep pauperization, and terrible gutterisation, will not be the same attitude and behavior that will take us out. Today, as some of us realize, is a religious holiday observed by the Roman Catholic faith and some Orthodox religion. It is a public holiday in some Roman Catholic-dominated nations around the world, to include, among others, Argentina, Colombia, Croatia, Dominican Republic, East Timor, Equatorial Guinea, parts of Germany, Grenada, Haiti, Jerusalem, and Israel. Just to name a few, because I think we need a bigger view of this particular holiday. Research reveals, folks, that Corpus Christi means the body of Christ and refers to the elements of the Eucharist, also called the Holy Communion, Last Supper, or the Lord's Supper. The Feast of Corpus Christi is a Catholic festival celebrated on the second Thursday after Whitsun. In the Church of England, this day is called Day of Thanksgiving for the institution of Holy Communion. It is instructive to note that the emergence of Corpus Christi as a Christian feast did not happen until the second half of the 13th century, with the efforts of a nun called Juliana of Liege. Now, since childhood, Juliana had been claiming that God had been telling her that there should be a feast day for the Eucharist. And eventually, she petitioned the Bishop of Liege. In those days, bishops could order feasts in their local diocese. The bishop agreed to the feast and convened a synod in 1246 and ordered that a celebration of Corpus Christi should be annually. The Corpus Christi celebration only started to become more widespread after both Juliana and the bishop had died. So in 1264, Pope Urban IV issued a papal bull Transiturus, in which Corpus Christi was made a feast throughout the entire Latin Rite. Corpus Christi is primarily a Roman Catholic feast, but it is also acknowledged on the calendar of the few Anglican churches, most notably the Church of England. It is also celebrated by some Western Rite Orthodox Christians. Across many parts of medieval Europe, Corpus Christi was a popular time for performance of mystery plays. So along with Lent, Advent, Easter, Pentecost, and even Christmas, Roman Catholic bishops have a duty. They have a duty to be present at their cathedrals on Corpus Christi. Now, having provided that rundown on the history of Corpus Christi, I believe we can understand why fancy to this holiday as a religious one has waned in our midst, with church-going becoming something of the past, and to a certain extent, Catholicism receding to almost a trickle. Based on our culture as a people to love holidays, and when I say holidays, I mean days that we do not have to go to work, so to speak, a visionary administration would do well to abandon these vacation days that are costly to the essential workplaces that are forced to pay double time, while others get a free day to play the fool, totally removed from the religious and Christian meaning of the day itself. But with all the grandstanding and playing up to the masses under the visionless, this could never be. We talk religion and Christianity when it suits us. And imagine this religious holiday which speaks to the day of the most holy body, the blood of Jesus Christ, the Lord, also known as the solemnity of the most holy body and blood of Christ. We say we Christians, yet for all, the overall day that, we are observing is devoid of any Christian principles and practices that are noteworthy. This election season happens to fall within the Corpus Christi situation. Corpus Christi is today. The election season has reached a crescendo point where this one is worse for lies, worse for deception, worse for contrived nonsense, alternative facts, and the whole 9 yards to mimic desperation in its rarest form. And that is precisely why I say, regardless of the reaction of the handful of people who persist on observing these nuisance holidays, we should put the nation back to work by abandoning them altogether, because they are simply a waste of time. For the rest of this day, though, let us focus. You see, I bring it into sharp focus now, the day, what it's about. Let us focus on being immersed in deliberating on the body of Christ so that we can win the battle for our souls. Because as long as we are not that focused, our souls are up for grabs. The people who like to transact business with everything that they do in the name of authority over the country and the nation and the people are still transacting business. And what is that doing for your soul? Not good. Let us prophesy and will into existence our freedom from the spell of poverty over our nation, that we may become a nation that prospers in everything we do, and our standard of living and quality of life be constantly improved in God's holy name. They talk about supporters and non-supporters. Folks, the last 27 years have redefined that. It's beneficiaries and non-beneficiaries. It's not no supporter, because a lot of the supporters of anything in this country are not genuine. They are transacting business. They are business transactors. And that is so sad. For the last 27 years, the nation has been classified in the following segments: needy, greedy, and vultures. You see how necessary it is for us to take responsibility for our future by changing our attitude as a people. Let's come up for a little air here. Very important. Very important that we do so.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Antillian Group, Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Lovely. Well, let me just say hello to quite a few people here. Lydia, Judy, Kalian, Wendy, what else do we have here? Ambika, love that name. Marian, Sam, Antha, Jillian. Who do we have? Oh, my dear friend Alvis, how are you doing, son? Branson, Gary, Della, and of course, Afi, my darling. That's on one platform. And let me say hello to the others on the other platform. So who do we have here? We have Kendra, Joanne, Samantha. This is not Samantha, but this is Samantha. We have Anne-Marie, Allison. This one is, I'll just call you Alexander because that little first one there, ooh, tongue twister. Charmaine, Sherlyn, Silvani, Jennifer, well, two Jennifers. So folks, welcome. Continue to hit that share button and let's get some more people in the room because this is going to crescendo. It's gonna get hot and hot and hot, hotter. In fact, I have the AC on today so that it will cool me down because we have a lot of turkeys to fry and a lot of issues because don't forget elections next Thursday. So we have, I think, a clear 6 days away from the general elections. So welcome back. It is all well and good, folks, for one to be anxious, passionate, enthusiastic about the politics in context of which party or individual he or she supports. But it is quite another that we should go out of our way to hurl insults and make irreconcilable confusion with others. Ooh. I think the result of that is dunceness. It is wholly unacceptable, and I dare say savage, for any one of us to attempt to destroy the otherwise good name of honest people, offering themselves as a sacrifice to help clean up our badly contaminated political landscape. Folks, all your head right? Why should we aid and abet, as it were, the regular nastinesses that we have become accustomed to over the years in authority over our affairs, and whose very performance or lack thereof is responsible for us being in the depraved positions that we found ourselves, in spite of them being around the precincts of power for so long? Folks, why? Why? I may not be able to help you with intelligence, but based on my experience, I am able to help rearrange some of your ignorance. A Nigerian Roman Catholic bishop of note, his lordship Hassan Kuka, is well known for the following words. Folks, listen to these words carefully. African educational systems have surprising outcomes. The smartest students pass with first class and get admissions to medical and engineering schools. The second class students get MBAs and LLBs to manage the first class students. The third class students enter politics and rule both the first and the second class students. But you want to hear something? Bishop Kuka says, the failures enter the underworld of crime and they control the politicians. And best of all, those who didn't attend school at all became prophets and everyone followed them. Isn't that familiar? We must be living in Nigeria. We must be living in Africa. Because you find a lot of ignorant and ill-informed people, ooh, self-esteem and confidence, high. They're speaking up. And the people with the knowledge, shut up. And then you have all this noise in the marketplace, just noise. And even the well-learned have to live under all that noise. Well, I'll tell you something. I may not, as I said, be able to help among you with intelligence, but I know I ain't dunce. I know I ain't stupid. And I'm going to make a lot of noise with the little bit of knowledge that I have. I ain't going down so. I'm not going down so. And I'm advising you not to go down so too. Isn't that beautiful what Bishop Hassan Kuka says? If it's necessary a little later on in the program, I'll repeat it because it's very familiar. This is a good juncture, folks, for us to take a little pause and invite you to hit the share button. And let's expand the circle of edified and enlightened Grenadians. Young people, I remind you, this is your time. A time for you to take action to change your trajectory to nowhere and instead opt for a brighter future by putting your shoulder to the wheel, remembering that without added elbow grease these days, the journey to any form of survival, let alone your own prosperity, will be impossible. Folks, young people, pull up your goddamn chair. People like us, we in the sunset of our lives, you know, the evening. Get yourselves together and stop letting old farts take you and play nanate with you. I wanted that to resonate. Pay attention. This is your time, and the time to pay attention is now. When you hear the people, you see the people making rancor and confusion and tebe for politics. All of them full of gray hair in their head. They live already. They're done. Don't let them dictate your pace. They want to relive their life through you, using you as tools and as footstools. Resist that, folks. Stand up for yourself. Stand and be counted. Come on, folks. Share, man. I'm totally convinced that if people knew better across the board, they would do better in order to genuinely achieve the highest standard of living and quality of life that we all deserve, and by extension, that we are all entitled to. This change that you can see coming, this change that you can taste and almost grasp at, is not too long in coming, folks. But remember what I tell you, the same attitude and behavior you had that caused you to be in this state of deprivation today is not the same attitude and behavior that will take you out. You've got to be the change you want to see. 6 more clear days. And if you want to stand up on the side of the road and beg, that change is not going to value you. It's not going to be of any benefit to you. You have to remain awake and make full use of every opportunity to rise in life and manifest the growth you are capable of and which you were never encouraged to make use of because of your captors since 1995. We pray earnestly that this yoke be broken and the spell over this nation is loosened from its stranglehold so that we become free to take responsibility for our own future. Young people, please continue to pay attention. Never go back to sleep again. This is your time. The future you are waiting is here. Come out in your numbers on Thursday, 23rd June, and do the right thing. Vote for betterment for you and future generations. Hit the share button, folks. Expose some of your friends to this meaningful, homegrown, motivational, and inspirational delivery, tailor-made just for you. Remember our topic today: take responsibility for our lives, our future, by changing our attitude and as a people. Full stop. Let's take another break here.
with consultant resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. EDDIE-FICATION with consult.
Good. Folks, remember I told you it's going to get hotter and hotter as we proceed. This is my third segment here. Let me see who else has joined us. Winsome, welcome there. Sam, Grantley, Agatha. I don't know if I called Linda earlier, but I'll call the name for whatever it's worth. Agatha, Miss, who else? Mary, welcome. Sherlan, well, I think I'd call that name. Let's see who's on the other. Pris or Pri, Patty, Chris. Welcome, folks. Welcome. Gary, it's a pleasure to have you in the room today. Wonderful. So let's get back to some serious business here. Hit the share button, folks, and let's get some more people in the room. Now, people are getting clouded by all the goings on around them in this campaign period. Why? I just don't know. The war is fought on social media for the most part. Meetings and the innovative Deacon Mitchell-inspired town halls are conducted via Facebook and YouTube with excellent results. Many people are able to compare the number of people viewing online in an effort to ascertain the interest many of the undecideds may be showing in which party. Because undecideds don't follow bandwagons, they don't go to meetings. So now that this thing is made possible for them to see it on social media, those are the people who are looking. Of course, when such comparisons are published, they seem to serve to annoy supporters or beneficiaries of one side whose numbers were pretty low in comparison with the other. All of that made for contention and tension among their beneficiaries. The supporters of the party that consistently showed lower and lower live viewing numbers when regular candidates on the platforms of the other party registering greater interest from the viewing public than even the leader of the side with the lower online viewership seem to have missed the point of the comparison. They instead started to reference their dense on-spot crowds and countering that, let's see if people on social media vote. Went over their heads. Of course, this made for some serious back and forth wranglings among party faithfuls on either side. The 23rd soon come, as the Jamaicans say, and we will see what difference the actual crowds attracted by either side at rallies, together with the online viewership, would have made to the final outcome. There's this Facebook contact that I have, Trina Langdon. She happens to be among the few people I admire and deeply respect for her focus. As I recently said to her, I follow her closely and I love her spirit. She's focused and resolute, yet respectful and loving. More blessings to that lovely spirit. These are the people that make for good accommodation, good atmosphere on social media, if even our views may not be the same. Isn't that interesting? And look at how highly I can speak of Trina. And our views are different. She recently wrote to attract my pointed response. Quote, Stop blaming politics for these behaviors. So all your day. These are things you all have in your minds and hearts from long. These are the things you all say about each other in your group chats, etc. All you just get brave now because all you have people with the same agenda to back y'all on social media. Set of envious, hypocritical, backstabbing, attention-seeking people. Don't blame politics, unquote. Well, you know, I couldn't agree with her more. I agree with her completely. There are some people who have to drink a rum and smoke a weed to tell you what they have on their mind. The silly season is no different. Let's face it now, man. Politics has the effect of putting people in a trance, just like rum. Whoever some people support, they become blinkered, and they can only see one point of view. Rational thinking goes out the door, and they become harum scarum. Folks, I see a lot of things that I oppose. I have a divergent view of a different view. Why do I have to get in the swing of things and interfere with the person? Why do I have to respond? When there is this, you can scroll. When you can move on. But you love all you like TB. You're like so much your harum scarum. You like you have the TB in your DNA. That you have to go under somebody's page, under somebody's. People have a right to their opinions. People have a right to their views. But you cannot improve the quality of the discussion with intellect. So what do? You hurl insults. Well, you stop that now. Cut it out now. That just shows you up as beast in clothes. You really shouldn't be wearing clothes because you're uncivilized. You're an imposter. Leave the people thing alone. Read it. Stoops, if you will, and move on. Among you, stop it. The place too small. We have 100,000 people here, and I know you can grow. You see any new people lately? There are no new people here. We have to live with one another all year. Here are my pungent views. These are mine. Go and air yours. Look, I do in a live. Go and do yours. Why come under mine, for instance, and try to disparage my character? And you're out of order. You are out of order, folks. Out of step, out of line. You want to go and Facebook have a live button, just press it and go. You don't even have to think, just go. And this is why I particularly hesitate to speak with anyone about politics. And you know what I actually do? I refer them mostly to my deliveries, where I believe they need to hear my political views. Full stop. I have no political views to share with anybody on a one-on-one. Very few people I speak politics with. I have my little posse. The rest will have to tune in and be contented with my public views. Full stop. I also saw a lovely piece of candor from Sandman, who wrote on Facebook recently, quote, "No democratic government can successfully and sustainably alter the disposition of a population that does not wish to consciously develop itself first. This is an aspect of governance that's missing, one that seeks to nurture and develop the mentality and attitude of a populace adhering to traditions yet accepting of disparities, firm yet graceful. Our greatest resource, our people, are the only light at the end of this very tunnel. Until then, expect broken promises, injustices, poverty, terrible customer service, businesses treating employees poorly, and the list that follows. Government guides and represents us, but it is on us to seek betterment, and we can do it, unquote. Very sound indeed. Folks, I hasten to remind one and all that voting is a sacred activity or event. Its consequence or consequences can be mammothly positive or gigantically catastrophic. Because we have made our politics everybody's business, there are few people that there is a need to ask who they're voting for. But I never would ask that question at all of anyone, because that's their business. I believe I have enough sense to understand and appreciate that everyone has that right and a right to their choice also. The same way no one can debate with me about my choices, I will never engage anyone in any debate about theirs. I will never tell anyone who to vote for, in as much as I will always make myself available to strongly advise them what to vote against. Here I go again. Vote against nastiness. Vote against corruption. Vote against the Wood for Wood Act. Vote against being treated for your vote. Vote against marginalization. Vote against victimization. Vote against people deliberately overseeing a system that keeps you down and pauperizes and gutterizes your civilization. There you have it. People who get rather defensive and upset when asked who they're voting for need to step it down somewhat, for fear that the tone of your response does the answering for you in more details than you are consciously prepared to give. Aggression tells a proper communicator all he or she needs to know about a person, believe it or not. You see, body language and tone of voice constitute 93% of communication. And therefore, the actual words that come out, cloaked in your obnoxious display and aggressive tone of voice, don't come from much at all. Folks, our bodies speak so loudly that people can hardly hear what our mouth is saying usually. The same reason you have for wanting to hide behind aggression in your response aids the questioner to construe your true response, which you think you're hiding. Psychologically, it can be interpreted that you know what you are destined to support and put your X by is undesirable, and if found out to be true, will reflect poorly on you. So it's not something you're happy to do, because most people who are happy, they tell you. Most people who are private, they behave accordingly. So they are the ones that are really justified in being asked, if at all you're so fast. All of that is so unnecessary when your response could simply be masked in a simple, voting is not by the show of hands. It is a private activity, and therefore I do not disclose such. Why the aggression and all the accompanying obscenities? We see it on social media all the bloody time. And of course, sensible people conclude where that vote is going, the only appropriate place it can. Now, folks, while I'm at it, that's just not a question that you ask anyone. You're too fast, you're fresh, you're forward, and you're frontish. You're out of order. The spiritedness of the moment reveals where their support is likely to be headed if you pay attention. All you've got to do is to pay attention. As Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are, believe them. You see, if we take responsibility for our future by changing our attitude as a people, we would live differently And we will not participate in the anger frenzy that we are seeing playing out in the public domain all over social media. A word to the wise, I believe, is just more than sufficient.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Antillian Group, Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Good. Good. Well, today is a special day. It's Corpus Christi, and we have a public holiday. I thought I wouldn't do this evening, but I'll do it this afternoon. And because I believe this evening they're going to be piping up and having quite a few meetings that a lot of us would like to be switching back and forth with. So with not much competition this afternoon, I thought I would have it this afternoon. Folks, I'm really happy that this program is actually put on Facebook in the archives and it's made available. And that, you know, between last week and this week, you're going to have like 5,000 or 6,000 views. That's good. So people are able to view this program and any other program of similar nature at their convenience. I'm really, really happy about this. So welcome back. With all that has happened already, folks, in terms of all that I've already said, the election campaign environment is interesting. Cut all the fat, cut all the vitriol, the lies, the smut, the slander, and what have you. We can really see that the opposition is excited, passionate, and enthusiastic to come from its streak of defeats with a carefully choreographed campaign, led and inspired by the people and their desire for change. While the incumbent is showing signs of cracks, anxiety, nervousness, and desperation. Folks, the public information sphere is dominated by the opposition. And what you find happening is that the proposition is playing catch up, having to respond. The narrative, in other words, is controlled by the opposition. The opposition is coming with sound plans and programs, while the proposition is coming with pecan and one for the road, safer hands. You know, it's really showing. It's not flowing. It's not flowing for the road. Only wrong men and drunk men that just talk that. One for the road. That ain't come. You know, when you go to school, they used to tell you that joke ain't come. That ain't come. That ain't ready yet. Safer hands. With all these intransigencies over the years, you think you really should label your hands safer hands? Hello? Well, I know I'm not one of the retarded people living here, so I could doubt that. Folks, the following reflects a somewhat edited viral WhatsApp message received recently. Information reflective of tobacco well pressed coming out of the incumbents' war room meeting or meetings confirm that they are panicking bigly and proving otherwise to their public expressions of confidence. We can hardly hear their senior operatives talk about 15-0 and only junior minions and inconsequential beneficiaries are talking that with the loudness of it reducing to a mere murmur. They have recently been convinced that their crowds are stagnant in numbers, while the competing opposition is showing steady growth and a lot more enthusiasm, in consort with, of course, their momentum. With one more major rally on the mainland and 6 clear days before Thursday, 23rd June, the NDC is anticipated to clinch victory indeed. This according to operatives within the incumbents' camp. It is alleged that it was one of those recent meetings that they plan to launch hundreds of fake social media profiles. Tick. Concoct anything against Deacon Mitchell to slow down his momentum. Tick. Arrange for 3 unpalatables and a couple others to come up with snippets to combat the newspaper man's popular and regular daily WhatsApp effective pieces of attractively packaged truths. Tick. Because we have seen these 3 things being actioned. It is also alleged that at yet another recent war room meeting, that they decided that the fake profiles will post things against they themselves so that they can blame the opposition for doing them. It is instructive to note that no sooner than these things are discussed, they are all over the place. What has happened to their airtight valve that they were known for? You see, based on feedback, some of their inside people are fed up with the tactics to destroy people and find something is wrong with that level of dishonesty and choose to spill the beans. Maybe that's the case. It is at these said meetings that the mumbling, jumbling, tired, tested and failed leader usually cuss and get on about the party losing the PR battle daily and that a certain quote-unquote hitman ain't water. Fill in the blanks yourself. The WhatsApp message concludes by saying, NDCites, stay focused. Do not be distracted by the shenanigans of the failed NNP. They know they are finished. Come out in your numbers on election day and vote them out. I find that is so interesting. I never like reading long WhatsApp messages, but I've always found these to be so interesting. I must read them. These things are forwarded so many times that you can't forward them more than once. You have to forward them one person at a time when you're forwarding them. They've been so many times forwarded. What does that say, folks? You know, a lot of people are saying, giving praise and glory to the new NDC for their organizational abilities and whatnot, folks. When people are ready for change, they can make anybody who is in the right position at the right time look good. The people are generally fed up. Everywhere you pass, I can't wait for this election to finish so I could come up and exhale when we get the change. Yeah, time for them to go, man. They have to go. Oh, God. Fed up with them, man. Same old. The place stale. The place jam. Oh, man. Everything is gimmick. Hello? Folks, that's what you're hearing that everywhere, you know. I had a friend who I've been to Taiwan with in 1992, a regional journalist who was on assignment here. He's left on yesterday, actually. Yesterday he left. And he was one that saw a WhatsApp thing going around saying that the NNP has its crowd. The NNP has its supporters, no doubt. But the NDC has the rest of Grenada. This is a guy doing the length and breadth of this country. And he told me in no uncertain terms, he could agree with that. He could agree with that because everywhere he went, he's just hearing, oh God, no, they gotta go. They gotta go. Very interesting. So folks, I am delighted to close today's edification, 119, with excerpts of an article from Friday's edition of the New Today. Who will win in Mitchell versus Mitchell? By Rudon Eversley. Or Roydon Eversley, I don't know, R-E-U-D-O-N, I don't know how we pronounce that. But it could be Roydon, it could be Rudon, I don't know. He's a strategist who graduated from Carleton University in Canada. Quote, in the raging Grenadian political battle, pitting a younger Mitchell against an older Mitchell, the foremost question on everyone's mind, as election day fast approaches is who will prevail during the final face-off on June 23rd. It is arguably the island's most significant general election since 1984, when parliamentary democracy was restored 4 years after it was derailed by the English-speaking Caribbean's first coup d'etat, and a year after US forces intervened amid a chaos following the bloody self-destruction of the Grenada Revolution in another coup. In essence, the June 23rd poll offers voters a choice between staying with the familiarity of the past or embracing the hope of the future and unblocking new and limitless possibilities. At 75, and with his most productive years arguably behind, the outgoing Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, represents the past, the post-revolution past, to be specific. Dr. Mitchell has been a fixture in Grenadian politics since 1984, when he was first elected to the House of Representatives. He comfortably retained his St. George Northwest seat in every subsequent general election. The new National Party NNP leader is Grenada's longest-serving Prime Minister. Dr. Mitchell's main challenger this time around is 44-year-old attorney at law Deacon Mitchell, a newcomer to electoral politics, who was elected leader of the main opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, just over 7 months ago. The NDC is seeking to avenge crushing defeats in 1999, 2013, and again 2018, when the NNP won all 15 parliamentary seats. Watching the battle from afar, mostly via internet streaming, it looks as if the NDC can achieve this objective. Its campaign relies heavily on attracting huge, enthusiastic crowds, noticeably made up of young people. As a newcomer to the frontline electoral politics, Deacon Mitchell's success in mobilizing the NDC's base in such a short time frame has been nothing short of astounding. He's clearly an effective organizer and is apparently seen by the youth in particular as representing hope for their future. And my own words here, because he look like them. He don't have shoe polish in his hair. And he don't have tight pants and tight this and tight that. He don't have to shop in Baby Gap to look young. Let me continue the man's article. When young people gravitate in their numbers towards an opposition party, it usually spells trouble for an incumbent, especially if it has been in office for a long time, like the NNP has. Additionally, there is a human tendency after time to grow tired of experiencing the same old and to yearn for an experience of the new and different. This human behavior trait cannot be ruled out as a factor working against the new National Party. In campaigns, it is emotion more than reason that informs voter decisions. Whenever a country goes into change mode, there is a particular vibe in the air which the politically astute can easily detect. It usually begins to take shape in the months leading up to the election. It gradually builds and eventually peaks at the height of campaigning. Although looking on from a distance, I have been sensing a strong desire for change coming across the seas. This was long before news broke over the past weekend that a certain political consultant brought in to shore up the faltering NNP campaign had hurriedly left after concluding there was no life-saving miracle he could perform. Perhaps Dr. Mitchell too senses the end is near. When he announced the election date, I found it rather interesting that almost immediately he closed the door for new voter registration. A logical conclusion is that new votes were seen as more likely to support the NDC than the NNP. Hence the preemptive strike. I watched the NNP opening rally, and a few afterwards, the mood was relatively flat, and the platform offered more a rehash of the past, centered around Dr. Mitchell himself than a vision for an exciting journey into the future. Dr. Mitchell's case for re-election, as presented that night, was anchored in a call to give him one more for the road. In other words, let him retire from the office of Prime Minister and presumably Parliament also in a blaze of glory. Is this a sufficiently strong and compelling reason for voters, other than die-hard NNP supporters, to want to back the NNP's re-election bid? For voters today, it is first about me. The verdict will be given on June 23rd. Elections are never won by a party's supporters alone. It's always the floating voter who tips the scale in a general election. These voters are not party aligned and tend to be motivated by any credible plan to improve the general welfare and boost opportunities for a better life. I suspect most young people rallying around the NDC are floating voters. Hopefully, they were able to get their names on the voters' list in time to cast their ballot. They clearly see hope in Deacon Mitchell, not just because he's relatively young, but also because he speaks about a new Grenada with passion and easily connects on an emotional level. Voter perception of weak, uninspiring leadership undoubtedly was a major contributor to the NDC's flagging fortunes since the mid-90s, especially the 3 greenwashes inflicted by the NNP. That perception continued to dog the NDC even while in government between 2008 and 2013. Like a dos machina, which would suddenly appear in an ancient Roman theatrical play and fix a seemingly unsolvable problem, the meteoric rise of the charismatic Deacon Mitchell from relative political obscurity has re-energized the NDC's base and the country in a few short months. Enthusiastic public response to the NDC's new leader obviously caught the NNP by surprise. In their complacency, they no doubt had initially dismissed him as no serious threat. Now they are clearly worried. While the NDC enjoys a psychological advantage over the NNP, with just one more week of campaigning to go, it should take nothing for granted. Though they serve as good yardstick of voter support, a general election is ultimately determined not so much by massive crowds at political meetings or the size of motorcades, but by a winning party outdoing its competitors in the effectiveness of its GOTV organization on polling day. Hold on a minute, you'll know what GOTV means. In the jargon of modern political practice, GOTV stands for Get Out the Vote. A party knowing who and where its committed voters are and ensuring that they don't just promise to vote, but actually do so. As a seasoned campaigner, the NNP obviously understands the numbers game and may have an advantage over the NDC in this regard, no doubt, to pull out all the stops to ensure re-election, even by a small margin on June 23rd. To bring home the bacon, the NDC must begin, as of now, to put all the necessary arrangements in place for an effective election day, get out the vote to ensure it is not outdone. To be leading a race only to be pipped at the wire would be nothing short of utterly devastating for the NDC leadership and supporters. As the saying goes, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. At this stage, I give the edge to the NDC, which to win must take at least 8 seats with a possible 2 or 3 more, depending on the final swing. Rodan Eversley is a former Kana director of news and current affairs, who has extensively covered Caribbean politics since the 1980s. Now, he's based in Barbados. He's also a certified political strategist, having graduated with straight A's from Carleton University with a Master of Political Management, MPM degree. You know, Deacon Mitchell's entry into elective politics is reminiscent of the emergence of Eric Gary, whose entry was all about timing, as he, Sir Eric, alluded in one of our many conversations back then. Folks, I take my leave today. I'm very aware that insecure people whose foundation is shifting are expected to use insults when they cannot make civilized arguments based on facts. I'm even more so now prepared for that than any other time. Any other time in my life. All I say to such is, when you're coming, come good, as the dollars don't make noise, but the change does. Change has landed. Get out the vote. Go out and vote. Have patience, folks. Wait in line. Remember what they tell you, people with your index, a lot of these ladies with your, make sure your fingernail is not interrupting the electoral ink. So you need to do something about your long fingernails or fingernail on the index finger that you're going to be using, because you got to vote. Get ready to be a part of the movement going forward to help salvage, stabilize, and build Grenada. I want you to not deny the signs, vibes, and energy that you feel. The swing has been happening, and although it has not finished yet, the swing is still happening. When that day comes, we have to do the rest. Convert the energies and frequencies that we've been vibrating at for change into rubber on the ground. Vote, vote, vote. Remember, no one can know who you voted for. It is secret ballot. So you can be instructed by Clifford Rubbermaid Bascom in his last live video. Take the gifts and do the right thing on election day. Sanitize Grenada. I am delighted, folks, to end with this affirmation of our prophecy from Pastor Jonathan Lacrette. Let's take this in, folks.
So my young people, as a body of young men that are strong, and as a body of young women that are wise and prudent, we stand flat-footed tonight, not just as NDCites, but Pity Martiniquans, Caracunians, and Grenadians. And we prophesy that the yoke and the spell of poverty is broken over our lives. Hey, Jesus, forgive me, I just slipped into spiritual mood. We prophesy in the name of Jesus that the powers of darkness that have held us back are broken. Jesus, we will no longer relent, but we stand in disobedience and we stand in rebellion. We oppose and we resist and we restrict every force, every demonic plan, every satanic plot, every wiles of the devil, and we loose ourselves free from political bondage.
Lovely. I'm in, I'm out, I'm gone. See you next week, God willing, until not next Thursday, because that's election night, until next Wednesday. Wednesday evening, I shall be on. And folks, I have a surprise for you. Spread the word, because it's not going to be easy. Stay safe, stay well. Remain lifted, folks. Remain lifted. You know, and don't get your necks in a twist. Let's see what we can do to take all the angst and all the personal assassination, all the choppiness and fighting with one another and fretting. I have some people on as contacts that I really admire. I follow them. I read. I do not necessarily comment, but I follow them. And I find them resolute. I admire their resolve. I admire their loyalty. I admire their commitment. And you know what? They ain't cussing nobody. But they always warn people, don't interfere with me. And I agree with that. Because if you're going to make a comment, you make a comment respectfully. After this politics is over, we have to live with one another, folks. We need to stop all this petty tribal rubbish, because all you're really doing is proving that you are a beneficiary or a beneficiary in waiting. Study all your head. Cut it out. Because a supporter doesn't behave like a transactionist or a beneficiary or a greedy or a vulture. Good? And we need change so that we deal with the needy. The needy in this country have to graduate from poverty. That yoke has to be broken in this country. As I said before, see you next week, God willing. You know, it's really a plum-pleasing pleasure to be here today.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Antillian Group, Country Cold Store.
Living with the pandemic hasn't been easy, but that does not mean that life has to fall apart. Work, play, and take care of your finances from home. Connect with friends on social media, host Zoom meetings with colleagues, and use Core Bank's banking to pay your bills and manage your funds. Log on to www.grenadacoopbank.com and sign up for Coop Bank's e-banking.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Co-op Bank introduces e-payments, our new e-banking feature that allows you to send money to friends or family. E-payments, the swift, simple, and secure way of transferring money.
Welcome home. Believe in our strength. We'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we get. It's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
You are offered a wonderful opportunity to win a grocery coupon to the tune of EC $250, redeemable at any of the food fairs. All you've got to do to qualify is like, share, comment, and follow EDDIE-FICATION on any of our social media platforms. This promotion continues for all of June with one draw on Thursday, June 30th. The winner will be announced immediately after advising the winner. Any overseas winner is asked to kindly transfer their winning to a relative or friend who lives in the state of Grenada. I am extending an open invitation to any individual or company tuned in to come on board and assist with our drive to whip up an interest in getting more of our young people to pull up their chair and pay attention to the instructive thoughts and ideas shared on this program as we seek to edify them to make better decisions that would help to shape a better future for themselves and the future security of the nation as a whole. Join me in bringing excitement to our audience with a chance to win something that can brighten their corner in these challenging times. Reach out and touch someone as regularly as you can afford. Of course, due recognition will be given to you for your active partnership in this regard. Thanks in advance.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as Eddie Frederick deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource